And you have 8-year-old children now that go on some ghost train. That was great. You want to do it again and it'll say, no, I'm all done. My life is over now. I've experienced everything. I don't need to do that ever again. If I did do it again, I would just yawn all the way through it. That's a bit sad. I've done everything. I've done ghost trains. I've been in a scary helicopter ride driven by some lunatic who plays status quo. I've been to Disneyland. I've been to Morningtown, but I've never been to me. You shouldn't be letting your child clear things off their bucket list until they're at least 20. There's another 6 long summer holiday breaks before I'm even finished school. But I've done the ghost train. I've learned how to swim and not drown. I've learned how to ride a bike. Hold some things back for them, for Christ's sake.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If aliens arrive, let's all just agree not to rush into anything. We'll have a little meeting online somewhere. And everyone stands up and says their piece. They'll say, I don't think we should do anything about the aliens. And then the next person will stand up and say, I think we should do something about the aliens. And then the next person will stand up and say, I don't agree. I mean, I agree we should do something about the aliens, but I don't agree with the previous speaker on what it is we should do about the aliens. And then the previous speaker will stand up and say, I didn't say what we should do about the aliens. I just said we should do something about the aliens. And the other person will stand up again and say, no, I didn't. I said that we should do something about the aliens, but I didn't say we should do whatever the same thing you're thinking of. I didn't even specify whether or not I have something specific in mind. So how you can determine whether or not you and I are in agreement or disagreement, I don't know. Maybe I should sit down and shut up and let you say your piece and say what you think we should do about the aliens. And then the other fellow will stand up and say, oh, I don't think you should do that at all. Because I said we should do something about the aliens, but I didn't really have anything in mind. I was just... I know that makes it sound like a useless non-opinion, but it's not. I'm expressing the opinion that we shouldn't not do anything about the aliens. We should do something. I just don't know what yet. Maybe I will at some point. And the fourth person will stand up and say, I think we should not do something about the aliens, just like the first speaker says. But I'm not necessarily agreeing with that first speaker. They didn't elaborate on how they're going to go about not doing anything. There's different ways of abstaining from stuff, Just ignore it. Actively do something, but do it incorrectly. It's a bit like having a work to rule or something like that. Maybe they're going to take us over as slaves, and when that happens, a work to rule might well be appropriate. Well, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. And then the fifth speaker will get up and say, how long more are we going to stretch out this crap? Then the fourth speaker will stand back up and say, excuse me, get out, get out, get out. Get out of our meeting, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Get out, 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 go. And then someone, of course, will say, do you realise you're saying that so automatically that it now just sounds like you're saying gout, which is meaningless. And then a sixth person will stand up and say, excuse me, I'm a doctor. The word gout is not meaningless. It's a very specific meaning. I could show you in a medical dictionary if you like. Gout is a lot of things, but it's not meaningless. Is it not? It's just not meaningless at all.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Tell me your mouth isn't important to you and I'll shut up and not say anything more about this. You won't tell me your mouth is not important to you, because you know damn well it is. Your mouth is one of the most important things you have. Not only do you speak through it, you ingest, you cough through it where you get rid of germs and things that choke you. You inhale and you spit through it. Now, you may not like vomiting, but you do vomit through your mouth, and there are times when vomiting is absolutely vital. It'll save your life. One thing you don't do is have diarrhea through your mouth. People say you have verbal diarrhea. But we all know that's not the same thing. But sometimes you can have diarrhea and vomiting at the same time. Diarrhea just isn't enough, so your mouth works as an overflow. That might save your life one day, so don't poo-poo the idea of vomiting through your mouth at the same time as having diarrhea.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Then they show Star Trek The Next Generation in black and white, same as every other day. On an old hand-me-down 14-inch portable television that had a huge hole in one bottom corner of it. These people were flying around in space in the future, looking for any sign of life. They go through millions and millions and millions and miles and miles and miles of emptiness. Eventually they get to some sun and they say, there's a sun. Where there's sun, there's planets. That's a good sign, they'd say. That's the sun. And then someone else would go, no, it's just a bog standard star. That's not a sun at all. And then someone else would go, you fucking idiot. You fucking, it's usually Captain Picard would say this. He'd say, you fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. Star is a sun. Every star you see in the night sky is a sun. Even if you see it at night, it's a sun. I know you think we don't see suns at night time. You see them in the day. But no. Every star you see in the night sky is a sun. It's a star to us because it's someone else's sun. It's like you see a moon that belongs to another planet. That's not our moon, so we don't call it them moon, but it's still our moon. The same is true of other people's suns. Other people's suns are stars, but to them they're a sun. So, and the same is true of people. You see someone else and you say, oh, his kid is a gobshite. I don't like his kid. That's okay, he probably likes his kid. So he thinks of his kid as... Wait, I suppose that probably doesn't... Anyway, yes, I did watch Star Trek The Next Generation in black and white.
IntoYourHead.ie.
And the pilot says, get off my aeroplane. You've no business being on an aeroplane. If you are, you'd be in a cage underneath with the baggage. Your baggage in more ways than one. Your baggage... in the sense of you being part of a traditional two cats walk into a bar story that's done out of a force of habit on this podcast. Your baggage, dead weight and baggage, that's what you are. And the cat says, well, this baggage is what pays for your pilot wages. They say your ticket will be 2 cents and your excess baggage is 85 euros per 0.0742165 kilograms of dead weight. Of course, the problem is, how do they define dead weight? And they don't. There's nothing to define. It's just dead. The fact that it can't be defined, I suppose. The fact that it can't be identified as anything. There was this picture going around on Twitter a few years ago. There's a picture of someone's room. You can see that there are several items in the photo, but it was blurred to the extent that he couldn't identify a single object in the whole photo. And it's a bit like that. When you have dead weight, you can't identify anything in it. So you just say, I don't know what's in this box, so I'm just going to call it dead weight. That's going to be a problem, of course, with customs and excise.
IntoYourHead.ie.
We all think we know wasps. We think we can identify a wasp. We think if there was a wasp in here in this room now, we'd know straight away. And we might know from the sounds it makes or from the fact that it's flying around in front of your face, terrifying you. Would you be able to identify a wasp by smell? I very much doubt it. You might fool yourself into thinking you can. You'd see this yellow thing flying around in front of you and you say, oh, that smells like a wasp. But you know damn well, you're just guessing. You see something flying around and it's yellow and you think, oh, if I could smell that and identify the smell, it would probably smell like a wasp. Even though you've never smelled a wasp in your life. There's probably animals who can smell wasps. Our cats go around smelling insects all day, every day. They sniff spiders and then eat them. They sniff flying things and eat them. Maybe they're just sniffing to see if they smell of mold. I suppose that's the most important thing about smelling these things. Anyway, we don't all spend our days going around checking out smells. That's why smells have to be so extreme sometimes, because the smells know that you're not going to notice them unless you're looking out for them, so they have to do something extreme. You come across a very strong fart and you smell it straight away, even though you're not on the lookout for smells. They're doing you a favour. They're doing something to draw your attention. But someone puts on their brake lights on the car in front of you, but their bulb is too faint, so you end up crashing into them. No, you don't want that. And the same is true of that. Same is true of that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
People like to say it's like comparing oranges and apples. And I know apples are not oranges and oranges are not apples, but they're not terribly different. They're both fruit, they're both edible by humans, they're both round. One has a skin that's very different from the other skin. You'd eat the skin of an apple, but you wouldn't eat the skin of an orange. I suppose there's that. And you can open up an orange without using a knife. Weirdly, this thing that's supposedly natural, this orange, we're told these oranges are natural, that they're made by Mother Nature. Once you get the peel off, you find that inside, it's very, very unnatural. It's divided into segments in the same way that you might expect in a factory-made confectionery item. It divides equally into segments that are very conveniently just tear apart. You can take out a segment of an orange and it just comes out like it's from a pack of sweets. When you order garlic bread with your pizza, they send this weird square box with garlic bread in it. You can tear off a square. And the inside of an orange is like that. You can tear off a segment that's very equal and suspiciously easy.
IntoYourHead.ie.
When I started working, people would ring up offices and they'd say, "Who am I speaking to, please?" And you'd be expected to say your name. And you'd be very reluctant. You say, "Oh yes, just ask for anyone here." And then eventually they get your name out of you. They trick you into saying who you were. But nowadays the world has changed. You don't do that anymore. That's not a thing. It makes no sense to ask for someone's name. You're not ringing up to talk to a person. You're ringing to talk to a desk. You're not ringing up there to make friends. You're ringing up there to interact with an institution or company. If you're ringing up there to talk to the same person every day, you need to go join the club or something. If you're ringing up a company nowadays in 2025 and asking, "What's the name of the person I'm talking to, please? I want your name, your full name," you're a weirdo. Don't do that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If you're listening to this in the car, I'd like to suggest you do the following experiment. Every time you get to a red light, press pause on this program and then just stop. Concentrate, of course, on the road and the signal and just think what's happening here now? What's really happening? I know what's happening on the face of it. On the face of it, what's happening is that I'm in the car and I'm stopped waiting for the legal signal to go and tell me that it's probably safe to go. And even if it's not safe to go, it's legally safe for me to act as if it is. And that if I crash into someone now, it'll be legally their fault and all that. And just think beyond that. What's behind all that? Because imagine that what you're seeing out there is like looking at an operating system. When you switch on a computer and you see a start button and you see some icons and you see a little arrow that you can move around. That's all just decoration. Look behind that. Behind that is all these ones and zeros and zeros and ones and zeros. And the same is true of the world at your stoplight. There's all zeros and ones and zeros and ones and zeros behind that. Now, on a traffic light, the stop would be 0 and the go would be 1. That's how binary works. And then the corresponding lights for the other direction, stop would be 1 and 0 would be go, because they're the opposite, because they're stopped when you're going. Now, how does that work exactly? Because that doesn't seem to make sense to me. On a binary system, 0 is off and 1 is on. But you have traffic going the other way. In fact, it's not necessarily even going the opposite direction, so it shouldn't be opposite. Some of that traffic that you're having to yield to while you're stopped is going perpendicular to you. It's going across the junction from that side road to that other side road. But your light is 0 for stop and 1 for go, but their light is 0 for go and 1 for stop. I suppose that's why they have to put a sign over the light that says stop or go to interpret it. Because if they just had 1 or 0 on their light and 1 and 0 on your light, it would mean a different thing for each of you. It would be very confusing. It wouldn't work. So that's why we have to stop and go thing over it. There's a light there. It's on. The one, oh, maybe that's not how it works at all. I don't know. I'm probably being a little presumptuous. Gives you pause for thought anyway.
Into your head! Into your head! IntoYourHead.ie.
I suppose that's why they have forewords by people who are not the author, endorsing your choice and making you feel good about yourself. James Herper saying, "Oh, well done, you've picked this author, Stephen King. He's very good. You like that. A good choice. How did you manage to find it? Did you look under a cave? You get an audio book, and the first thing you hear is a prelude saying, I hereby endorse your choice of book by the fellow who's going to come on after me." But he doesn't even do it in a different voice. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I'd like to see how one of these audiobooks handles an encyclopedia. You're supposed to believe that every article in that encyclopedia was written by the same author. I hardly think so. Maybe there was a time back 200 years ago when it would be possible for one author to write about every known subject in the field of science, but not now, no.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Harry and that woman who he went to school with, and the fellow with the red hair, for some reason they're camping in the wilderness somewhere. And for some reason your one is worrying about shit, and he decides for some reason to dance with her. They play this song called Oh Children. I'd never heard it before, but I searched for it on my way home, and it turned out the song they were singing was Oh Children by Nick Cave. Now, Nick Cave, people in this part of the world know him as being that lunatic who did a whole album of murder ballads and did that thing with Kylie Minogue about a wild rose. And they used him. He did the song about children. It was quite a good song. I've listened to it many times since. So at least something came of that. I know he was already very famous at the time, but a lot of children probably Googled that. I said, I wonder what that song's from. Is it from the K-pop people? Because you hear about these K-pop people. There's these pop bands. They're all robots or something, and they're made from automated paper cutouts or something. On children's television, when I was young, they had arts and craft programs. Yeah, a big sheet of paper, you'd fold it in eight times, and then you cut the shape of a person out of it. But because it's folded out, you're cutting the shape of 8 people out of it. And that's how they make a K-pop band. So people watching Harry Potter nowadays probably come across that song and they say, oh, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Is that one of those K-pop bands? Doesn't really sound like one, to be honest, because they're not usually called someone's name and the somethings. No, they're called something like Boy Cat or Girl Band 4 or something, or the Overexcited 7. They're not called Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Well, in this case, it was called Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And it's got even darker since then. That's okay. Nick Cave doesn't owe your children a cheerful song just because he appeared in their movie years ago. That's not how it works.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt myself there for a moment. Because that's unlistenable. I think you'd agree. That's unlistenable bilge. It's insulting to you to ask you to listen to that. That's something a child would come up with. If your child made a podcast, they would come up with some bullshit like that. Your stupid child would come up with some bullshit like that. And they'd expect people to go, oh, look, that's a great little opening gimmick. And they get to the end of the opening prelude sketch and you look at the camera and he's saying, I'm from New York, it's Saturday night. You're going to be stuck in that theatre for an hour and a half now. You're going to have to get home on some godforsaken hellhole subway at 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I hope you're ready for that. Anyway, Macaulay Culkin would look into the camera and say, hi from New York, it's Saturday night. And everyone would go, yay, we're all excited now. And they'd show the Saturday Night Live band leader. Weird looking fella. Yeah, he has hair and he has a wrinkly face that looks a bit like, not the main murdery fella on American Psycho, but his friend and colleague who looks a bit like him. He has the big muscular face and extremely wide mouth for some reason. They do workouts with their mouth or something, I don't know. But he looks a bit like him. The other fella in American Psycho. And McCulkin comes on. He's about 6 at this stage and he keeps going, thank you, thank you, thank you. Nobody's trained him out to just get on with it. He thinks you have to keep just going, thank you, thank you, thank you, and wait for everyone to stop politely applauding. So this incompetent child who doesn't know how to start a talk show or a live theatre television sketch show, he just keeps going, thank you, thank you, thank you, and wastes about 10 minutes of the programme while everyone cringes and goes, you just get on with it. And then they'll sit down and stop. He's probably ashamed of his younger self now, is he? Most of us are. I have pictures of myself as a child, just sitting on the sofa, doing nothing with a bear and a toy dog beside me, just looking like an idiot, taking up space and doing nothing. I have another one from the same era of me eating cornflakes. Absolute nonsense. No, you don't want that. Don't make your children be child actors.
IntoYourHead.ie.
People like to say it's like comparing oranges and apples. And I know apples are not oranges and oranges are not apples, but they're not terribly different. They're both fruit, they're both edible by humans, they're both round. One has a skin that's very different from the other skin. You'd eat the skin of an apple, but you wouldn't eat the skin of an orange. I suppose there's that. And you can open up an orange without using a knife. Weirdly, this thing that's supposedly natural, this orange, we're told these oranges are natural, that they're made by Mother Nature. Once you get the peel off, you find that inside, it's very, very unnatural. It's divided into segments in the same way that you might expect in a factory-made confectionery item. It divides equally into segments that are very conveniently just tear apart. You can take out a segment of an orange and it just comes out like it's from a pack of sweets. When you order garlic bread with your pizza, they send this weird square box with garlic bread in it. You can tear off a square. And the inside of an orange is like that. You can tear off a segment that's very equal and suspiciously easy.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Here, where was I going? The fucking cold sore has grown in the hour that I've been recording this show. This cold sore has emerged and grown into a rhinoceros. I think there's 2 now. I think I can feel 2 cold sores on my mouth now that weren't here when I started this show. What in the name of Christ? There's one there that I noticed half an hour ago and it's growing. And there's another one there. Look, you probably can't see it. I have it right up to the microphone. The other one, I can't really feel it. I can feel it's tender, but I can't feel a bump. The other one, no, I can feel a bump. I should probably go and put some cream on it. In due course, I'll go and put some cream on it. And then I'll go around with my face covered in cream for the rest of the day. And my wife will say, oh, did you have a cold sore by any chance? And I'll say, yes. How did you know? And she'll say, because your entire head is covered in pseudo cream. You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. And she'll be right about that, except she won't say it because she's too nice to say something like that, especially out loud. If she suspects it's going to be repeated on a podcast, I'll end up listening back to several times during the editing process. No, she wouldn't do that to me because that would be disproportional to the slight ribbing that she was intending. She says this light-hearted comment, I listened back to it 10 times on the podcast. Then it's going to have a disproportionate effect on me. So no, she wouldn't do that. I hope your other half wouldn't do that to you either. Or I hope your pets wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope your parents wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope your teacher wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope I wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope the Lord God, Jesus Christ, or whatever the equivalent is in your religion or non-religion, wouldn't do that to you. I hope he just rained down tons of rain and war and famine on you, and hopefully have it not affect you directly. Hopefully you'd miss it by living in a different country or in a different century, so you avoid much of it, and you just end up spending your life playing with smartphones and listening to podcasts and stuff like that. I want that for you in your life. That's what I want in those days. The bin could be anything. The bin man would pick it up on their shoulders and then make a determination as to whether or not the container was a bin or part of the rubbish. It wasn't obvious. Big position of responsibility for the local authority refuse collecting men then. Wait, is this a bin? Is he throwing out this bin? Because I've seen this bin before every week for 5 years. Now it's just appeared out beside his new wheelie bin. What have you got wrong? All you have to worry about now is some time and motion expert. Every move you make, you have to be running or jogging. Do not stop and pause and breathe. They want you running every inch. They want you moving so fast you dodge the raindrops. They find some way to make your job harder even when they fix all the old stuff.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Buy a house near a beach that's made of pebbles that will eventually, gradually and naturally evolve its value and become a beach full of sand. Only problem is, and I'm starting to think now maybe it's not a problem, if each of those pebbles turns into 1 grain of sand, that's going to be a very, very small beach. But no, I've just realised each pebble probably turns into thousands of grains of sand. Hopefully it won't be too much sand then, because I suppose it all takes up the same amount of space.
IntoYourHead.ie.
How would you carve a piece of pork in a McDonald's? It'd probably come in the form of a sausage patty. And they're only available until 10:30 in the morning. And that's very different from pork that I was trying to carve yesterday. Well, I think you'd have to go nuts and get the pancake and sausage meal. I say go nuts. You're getting a couple of pancakes and a sausage patty. Because then they give you a knife and fork, a plastic knife and fork. That's not how I would eat that dish anyway. I don't use the knife and fork. I put the sausage patty in between the 2 pancakes. I put the syrup in the middle and eat it like a sandwich because it's slightly less messy. Point is, if you had to carve a piece of pork in McDonald's, that's the nearest you get to it.
IntoYourHead.ie.